Hi everyone, this is Mrs Baly here and welcome to our art studio. Today we're going to be making some really cool marbled backgrounds that you can turn into cards. They'd be great for Mother's Day. You can make little books with them. You can do all sorts of things with these beautiful cards, papers, sorry. So this is what we're going to be creating, these bits in the background. And it's really, really simple and a little bit messy and fun. So I would suggest if you've got a outside area that you can work on, maybe use that, or just put a little bit of protection down because we will be using food colouring and food colouring can stain. So we're going to use shaving foam. This is a really, really cheap brand. Food colouring, which I'm sure you've got at home, a tray or a baking tray, just something that you can contain everything in. A scraper of some kind, so a ruler will work fine, preferably a plastic ruler, or an old gift card, so something you can just scrape away the shaving cream from, and some paper. I've just cut up some different sizes here that I can print on. So if you've got white cardboard, that would work really well as well, but white printer paper is fine. So let's get started. I'm just going to start out with my shaving cream, so it'll probably sound a little bit funny. Shaking it helps. There we go. Okay, so you just want to put out an even coverage. You'll notice as it expands. This is lots of fun to do. Okay, you don't need too much out. I'm just going to use my scraper just to kind of even it out a little bit. If you are really sensitive to smell, you might like to get an unscented shaving cream, or just leave your papers outside for a little while until the smell goes. It's not very strong, but might bother some people. Okay. If you've got some wet wipes around, they're quite handy to have just to wipe your fingers, or a damp cloth as you're going. So once you've got your surface done, I'm going to use my food colouring and I'm going to drop in some colours. Now, colour theory that we talked about in the very first video in this series is quite handy to avoid mixing browns. So I'm going to stick to some cool colour, warm colour, sorry. So I've got some yellow, and I've used up all my yellow, so I'll grab my other one. So you just want to drop the food colouring around the surface. I'm going to put that blue away for my next lot. I've got some red food colouring here. It doesn't matter what container it comes in. I would suggest you can buy these at cheap shops. They're little pipettes. It just helps to drop stuff out on the surface instead of trying to shake it and getting big drops everywhere. Okay, so that's more than enough. You can also just sort of tap it in just to make sure you've got everything. Okay, so next I'm going to use a skewer. It could be a wooden skewer, anything you've got, and we're going to marble this, and this is what's going to give us our pattern. So one of the easiest way to marble is just to drag your skewer backwards and forwards through the ink. Now if you've got other inks at home, water soluble inks, they'll work just as well. If you're doing this at school and you've got the inks or the dyes that we use at school, they'll work beautifully with this too. Backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. So you can keep mixing until you're happy. Try not to overwork it though, it's really tempting because this is so much fun to do. Right, so I'm going to leave that for the moment. The reason you don't want to overmix it too much is because we're going to print a few times from this, and as we print it's going to get more and more interesting each time. I'm going to start off with a small piece of card and I'm just going to press it onto the surface. So press it down so it's got good contact. If you're sensible and haven't lost your skewer, you can use that to help you pull it up, and you'll see it goes onto the surface. So I'm just going to move this over here. Oops. Get my scraper and I'm going to scrape across the surface to get all that shaving cream off. And what you're left with is that beautiful marbled effect. Now all the shaving cream that you've got on your scraper you can put back into your tub to reprint from. Okay, so there's my first marbled piece. I'm going to do a bigger piece this time. So that first piece was on cardboard. This is just normal copy paper. And again, I'm just going to press it in. Doesn't matter if some of it goes onto the back because you're not going to see the back. And bring it out. And again. Oops. Just scrape off the excess. And you can see how the colours start to mix together a little bit, which is awesome. So you can keep going and going and going with this technique and keep printing as many times as you like. You can also go in and remarble to get some different patterns. You can sort of go loopy as well. I'm going to print a few sections here. So cleaning up as you go is a really good hint because you don't want to get your other surfaces really messy. So I think those are going to be awesome. Look at that. Perfect. Oops. Well, okay, because I really like how that's marbled together, I'm going to do a really big piece. This isn't all going to fit in at one time, but you can try. Okay, get my scraper again. Right, so that looks really good. Okay, now this is also a really cool technique. If you've got small presents to wrap, you can make really cool wrapping paper from this, so gift cards, all sorts. You do need to be aware though that your hands are going to get inky, so if that concerns you, it will come off eventually, but you might like to wear gloves to do this. So I'm just going to show you quickly before we move on what it looks like if I put in some different colours. So I am going to put in some green and blue now, just to add a little bit of interest, but you will notice my colours start to get a little bit more mixed, and I will start getting some shades of brown because I'm mixing complementary colours together. If you've finished with one batch, you can wipe this out with just water. Wash it in your sink with water to start a new pattern. So I really like those swirly patterns before. So I'm going to do some more of those. If you don't work it too much, you won't blend the colours too much, which is the secret of getting some really great marbling. If you really start to overwork it, so that means moving around too much, that's when you're going to start to get some interesting looking colours. Okay. Your pig piece. Again, press down, make sure you hit all the edges. Ooh, cool. I really like that. I'm going to do another one. This is quite addictive. You can keep going and keep going, and you can end up with a whole heap of papers. So at the end of this video, I'm going to jump up into a voiceover, and I'm going to show you some ways that you can use these papers in your artwork and make some cool things. One of the things we're going to be making is a Mother's Day card. So a few more prints and then we'll go. So you can see here where I didn't press down enough, or the ink wasn't deep enough to get a full print. If you start getting pulls like the one on the left, it's probably telling you you're sort of getting to the end of your printing and it's time to either pack up for the day or to change your shaving cream, so to put in some fresh shaving cream and change your colours. Okay. So, just cleaning up a little bit. Again, as I said before, if you've got some wet wipes handy or a wet cloth, just so you can wipe down as you go, it's going to keep you and your mum or your teachers very happy that you're doing some great art, but you're not making too much of a mess. So really quickly, these are the pages that we've created today. And you can see there's some beautiful things there that we can do some really fun, exciting things with. Okay, so stay tuned and see what we come up with. Thanks for watching. So I'm starting out with my first card that I'm creating, and I'm just gluing one of the little pieces straight down onto a piece of black cardboard and cutting out around the edge to create a border. So this is going to create the marbled paper as a focal point. If you didn't have the black card, you could just use a permanent marker around the edge just to sort of create that border effect. I'm sticking it onto some brown card or craft card. You can get these from cheap shops, but if you didn't have it, an old cereal box folded to be slightly larger than your card front would be great. And you can always cover the inside of the cereal box with some more of your marbled papers to make it look really interesting. I'm just cutting out a piece of white card or white paper to use as my sentiment strip, and you can put anything on this. If you've got a stamp, you could stamp on it. I'm just writing out thank you. It could be Happy Mother's Day, it could be I love you, it could be happy birthday. Anything you can think of could go on that. For my second card that I'm going to be creating, this is my Mother's Day card. So I've just found a piece of blue card. Again, you could use any colour in the background, it's totally up to you. You could even paint your own background. So on the marble paper, I'm just drawing out some really simple flower shapes. If you've got something you could trace around, that would be perfect as well, or you can just freehand it, because the more rustic it looks, the better. So I'm using a pair of scissors to cut out my shape. I'm trying to stay without outside the black edge, so I've got that border around it. If you cut into it, that's fine, because you can always redraw it again. Now I've only cut out 4 flowers because that's all I could fit on my little piece of paper. Really, when you're doing things like this, if you cut out odd numbers, it just looks better. Odd numbers on artwork always looks a little bit better. For the centers of the flower, I've just scribbled in a little swirly circle. You could do that in different colour. You could use some textures. I'm just using a black pen. So I'm also going around the edge of my flower again, just to sort of define the petals a little bit more. Again, it just adds to the overall piece. And I'm just using some glue to glue them down onto my card. Now, I'm using some wet glue, but if you've got a glue stick, that would work perfectly well. Just make sure it's really pushed down so the glue stick doesn't pop off. When I'm finished, I'm just drawing in the stems of my flowers, and I'm just going to cut out a little piece of another contrasting colour to create a little bow. So to create the bow shape, you're basically drawing 2 little heights next to each other or opposite each other, and a little center flower circle. So it's two heights joined by a little circle. And on this, again, just with my texture on my pen, I'm just writing Happy Mother's Day. If you are writing it by hand, I'd suggest that you get an adult or someone else to help you out to make sure you've spelled everything correctly. Now, this is one of my favourite things to do with any sort of patterned paper or painted papers that I've got, and this is to make little monsters. And you can make a whole set of these to represent your family if you wanted to. And basically all you do is just draw out a really simple shape. It can be any sort of shape. Think about sort of alien shape. Cut out a white center, and it could be for your face. And then just draw out a really simple face. Now I really like these being a little bit quirky. I've got one eye open, one eye closed. I've got a little worried face on it. And then I'm just going to glue that down. And again, you can use a glue stick to do this. So you can imagine you can have these really big, really small, and they look really, really cute, especially if you frame them up. You could stick them onto some white paper and frame them up to make a really cool little, quirky little family. The last little piece I'm showing you is a little book fold. So I'm folding the paper in half and then in half again to create 4 pieces, and then I'm folding it long ways. And I'm just drawing a straight line between the middle pieces, so it creates this little book. Now this is really fast, but if you go on the internet and search for a zine fold magazine, or a zine fold, Z-I-N-E, you will find lots of instructions on how to make that really simple book. This is made out of a small piece of paper, but you can make it out of an A3 piece of paper. You can make this out of an A4 piece of paper, any size, and you'll just make different books. It's a great way to make your own little storybooks or anything else you've got. Now I've just taped up the loose edges, and I'm cutting out some of the other marble paper to make little bookmarks, or little tags to put in there that you could put secret messages in. So it's just a really funky little book that you can make. So these are the 4 projects that I've made out of the marble papers that we've got today, and you can see they're all completely different, but they're all customizable to you and what you need them for. So I hope you have a go at making some of these beautiful marble papers. Have a go at playing with colours in the same colour family, sitting next to each other on the colour wheel, or like I did at the end, mixing all the colours and just making something really rainbow bright, because it's lots and lots of fun. Until next time, bye for now.